This is the story of how Ferrari exploited a massive 2026 rule change within the FIA 2026 regulations to destroy the Formula One grid. Everyone else panicked, while Ferrari quietly built an unstoppable machine. Formula One tore up the rulebook for the 2026 season and split engine power exactly 50-50 between gas and electric sources. The governing body removed a highly complex component known as the MGU-H from the cars. This single decision triggered immediate chaos across the paddock. The MGU-H previously spun the engine turbo automatically. Drivers now face the brutal reality of manually spinning up their turbos before the lights go out. Taking up to 10 seconds, this manual process creates a massive window for driver error. Preseason testing kicked off in Barcelona this January. Disaster struck almost immediately for several top constructors. Cars nearly stalled on the start line during practice launches. Mercedes driver George Russell called the situation an engineering nightmare right to the media. McLaren standout Oscar Piastri raised serious safety concerns about the risk of cars stalling on the grid during race starts. And that's when the stark reality of the 2026 regulations hit the grid. Teams realized they severely underestimated the launch mechanics without automatic turbo assistance. Engineers scrambled to rewrite engine mapping software overnight. Mechanics spent sleepless nights trying to tweak clutch bite points, which meant millions of dollars in development suddenly looked completely useless. The grid faced a legitimate crisis just weeks before the first Grand Prix. 50% electrical power delivery demanded absolute precision. Without the MGU-H handling the heavy lifting, the turbo lag became violently apparent. Cars jerked off the line instead of smoothly accelerating into the first corner. The result was a paddock filled with terrified team principals watching their expensive machines stutter like broken toys. Ferrari sat silently in their garage while their rivals melted down entirely. Fans bought millions of dollars in tickets expecting a smooth transition to the hybrid era. The reality proved far more complicated for the traveling circus. Technical director Enrico Gualtieri predicted this exact stalling disaster months ago. Mercedes and Red Bull committed entirely to massive turbochargers to maximize top-end speed. Ferrari chose a completely different path. The Italian squad partnered directly with Honeywell to construct a dramatically smaller turbo unit. A tiny turbocharger requires much less exhaust pressure to reach maximum velocity. A heavy turbo simply takes too much time to spool up from zero. The physics completely ruined the launch maps for the top German and Austrian contenders. And that's when the sheer brilliance of the Maranello engineers became obvious to everyone watching. During the Bahrain practice starts, the Ferrari SF26 launched off the grid with zero hesitation. Their customer teams, Haas and Cadillac, experienced the exact same lightning-fast getaways. Mercedes driver Andrea "Kimi" Antonelli admitted the Ferrari launches looked violently fast compared to his own stalling machine, which meant the smaller turbo helped mitigate the terrifying 10-second manual spin-up window. Ferrari drivers simply dropped the clutch and vanished down the straight. The result was a demoralizing afternoon for the rest of the field. Rival engineers stared blankly at their timing screens. The telemetry data showed Ferrari pulling multiple car lengths ahead before the first braking zone. Gualtieri essentially solved the biggest mechanical headache of the decade by simply shrinking a single component. If you find this engineering breakdown fascinating, hit the subscribe button right now. We cover these massive motorsport controversies every single week. The result is, you always stay ahead of the grid. According to the FIA 2026 technical regulations, the rules mandated a massive minimum weight for the power unit, which the FIA 2026 power unit technical regulations set at exactly 150 kilograms. Most teams stubbornly stuck to lightweight aluminum components out of pure habit. Ferrari completely ignored tradition. The legendary team contacted Austrian engineering firm AVL to run highly secretive dyno tests. They swapped out the standard aluminum cylinder heads for incredibly dense steel heads. Steel easily handles far greater internal pressure and brutal temperatures compared to weak aluminum. Engineers across the pit lane stared at the AVL telemetry data in pure disbelief. Austrian steel absolutely crushed aerospace aluminum. And that's when Ferrari cranked their engine mapping to absolute maximum attack mode. The heavier metal absorbed the thermal shock, without cracking or melting under load, which meant Ferrari generated a massive horsepower advantage simply by using a tougher material. Rival teams suddenly realized they wasted millions designing fragile aluminum parts just to hit a minimum weight limit that required ballasts anyway. The result was absolute panic inside the Mercedes and McLaren factories. Ferrari gained durability and raw speed simultaneously. The Italian engines screamed flawlessly through endless long runs in the desert heat. Heavy metal power suddenly became the ultimate grid advantage for 2026. A massive 150 kilograms of engine weight finally worked in favor of the engineers instead of restricting them. Ferrari turned a regulatory punishment into a devastating mechanical weapon. Ferrari aerodynamics boss Diego Tondi found another massive loophole hidden in the rear crash structure. F1 cars generate extreme amounts of hot exhaust gas during heavy acceleration. Tondi instructed his design team to point the engine exhaust directly at a secret mini-wing mounted low at the back. The hot air rushes over this tiny carbon fiber shelf at terrifying speeds. The exhaust gases literally glue the rear tires to the track surface. Every single ounce of horsepower translates directly into forward momentum. And that's when the car generates massive amounts of free downforce without creating any extra drag. The tires stick permanently to the asphalt through high-speed corners, which meant Charles Leclerc carried far more minimum speed through the terrifying Bahrain sweeping turns. Mercedes engineers desperately tried to photograph the rear end of the SF26. The result was frustration, because rival cars use entirely different internal packaging layouts. Copying the Ferrari exhaust trick requires completely redesigning the entire back half of the chassis. Teams simply do not have the budget or wind tunnel time to fix this before the summer break. The Italian team essentially locked in a massive aerodynamic advantage for months. Tondi outsmarted the smartest designers in the world by using waste gas to generate pure mechanical grip. As dictated by the 2026 Formula One technical regulations, the new season now faces a completely terrifying reality for anyone not wearing red. Mercedes desperately needs to redesign their turbo architecture from scratch. Doing so demands sacrificing major development time just to fix their stalling issues. Ferrari already moved entirely past the reliability phase. The Italian squad currently focuses strictly on pure performance gains. The Maranello engineers deserve massive credit for reading the rulebook differently than the rest of the world. They ignored the obvious path and built something entirely unique. And that's when the championship fight threatens to become a completely one-sided affair. Customer teams like Haas suddenly possess a genuine chance to fight for podiums simply by running the Ferrari power unit, which meant midfield teams running Mercedes engines face a brutal uphill battle just to score basic points. The entire competitive order flipped upside down over 2 weeks of desert testing. The result was a dramatic shift in the global betting markets. Motorsport media immediately reported on the massive aerodynamic upgrades Ferrari introduced following the dominant testing performance. The Maranello factory hit absolute perfection regarding the new electrical power integration. Competitors face at least 6 months of painful trial and error before catching up to this baseline. Formula One executives privately worry about a single team dominating the new regulatory era. Fans watching from home will witness completely different racing dynamics due to the 50-50 power split. Drivers must manage electrical deployment with zero room for error while fighting natural turbo lag and utilizing the new manual override mode. Ferrari removed that exact stress from their drivers completely. Leclerc and Hamilton simply focus on hitting their braking points while everyone else wrestles a stalling machine. The engineering gap currently looks entirely insurmountable for the first half of the calendar. The 2026 rule changes broke almost every car on the grid except the one from Maranello. Ferrari turned an engineering nightmare into a masterclass. If you want more high-speed technical breakdowns like this, hit subscribe and join the community.